Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber, and welcome back to another classic album review, the quarter annual series. I'm telling the truth there because it's a December thing. I've decided. I'm changing that to basically a December thing, and I hope you guys are gonna like it. Basically, I got some cool albums planned for you guys, and I hope you guys will enjoy the rest of the reviews. Last week we covered Discipline by King Crimson, and this week we're covering something very special, but a little bit of context. So I'm reviewing this album because mainly it's just something I thought of recently, and I just found it very appealing, sort of out of nowhere. And another thing is, one of the key members of this band, at least formerly, completed rehab. Abith, if you're out there and you hear this, congrats, man. Good job. I wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavors, and I hope that you're just doing great right now. So you guys probably saw the title of the video. This is the 1999 classic black metal album, Immortals, At the Heart of Winter. This is the fifth album from the Norwegian black metal band Immortal. This album is featuring Abith and Horg, namely because the other member of the band had tendinitis when this album was being made, so he couldn't play guitar on it. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Abith crushes it, because if this album has anything over most, and I really mean most, black metal albums out there, you guys know I like black metal, this one has over a lot of them in the riffs department. These riffs could easily compare to a lot of Black and Death, or really any other black metal band. Emperor, it's better than those riffs at points. And the reason for that is that there was a little bit of German thrash influence on this album. Can I see it explicitly in everything going on? Not really, but potentially it did inspire some change-ups in the drumming, maybe a little bit better production, which is one thing that I found Immortal does compared to other bands, is that their production is slightly better than other black metal bands. It's not as fuzzy. So the atmosphere, depending on your opinion, could take a hit due to the slightly better production values, but honestly, I think they still keep it up with just the pacing and just the supremely amazing riffs. So At the Heart of Winter was not my favorite album by Immortal, but I think I'm changing my mind because honestly, it crushed it pretty much every time I've been re-listening to it. This is their fifth studio album, and it has only 6 songs on it. And these things are all pretty long. They're all at least 6 minutes, with 6 minutes being the shortest. The longest one, I think, is approaching the 9-minute mark. So that is one thing about this album that I really dig, is that it is kind of a progressive structure, not very much polyrhythms or interesting rhythms in that regard, but it is very technical. The drumming is so tight. I'll get to Horg's drumming because he does an amazing job here, but it's truly incredible. And honestly, the thing with Immortal is that they were a little harder to take seriously as one of the key black metal bands. Like, if you look at Burzum, he has supreme atmosphere. The lo-fi qualities on Philosophem are untouchable, and same thing with Vissa Seta Os. Meanwhile, Dark Throne also has that same lo-fi quality to it and just a really ferocious sound. You also got Emperor with a slightly better production value, but really technical wizardry. And of course, you have bands like Enslaved, or a host of other bands out here. And the thing with Immortal is they kind of differ from other black metal bands from Norway at the time. They keep the corpse paint, but a lot of their stuff differs. They do have slightly better production. They have not mentioned Satan since their first album. They don't really mention paganism. Instead, their concept is really, really incredible. And it's something that you might see Burzum mention, and especially Paysage d'Hiver, because Immortal's entire concept as an artist, or a band in that regard, is that it's their own fantasy world that they scream about for every song on every album. And I love this concept because they had invented this world called Blashirk, I think Demonaz wrote this world, essentially, and it was based on their views of Norway. And they said that Demonaz would go on really long walks outside in Norway in like the cold, just to feel how bitter it felt and how like alienated they all felt. Because if you've seen photos of people in corpse paint in public, it does kind of represent, I guess, the alienating feelings of the time. And that's really represented through the cold themes of this album. A lot of this album is connected to nature a lot more than people. A lot of like every song except for the title track on this album is about war and terrible tragedy. And the other song is appreciating nature and adventure, and I can really, really dig that. Another thing about this album, this is mucore. It is mucore. You could say maybe Pure Holocaust should have been mucore. Maybe one of the other terrible album cover ones could have been mucore, but this one is mucore, and I totally agree. This album is really good. So before I get into the track list, another thing I wanted to mention, the album cover art. This is probably Immortal's best album cover. If it's not this one, then it's Diabolical Mysticism, their first album. But this one is awesome. And if you see with that sort of like skull fortress in the distance, it is kind of about that. It looks all hidden and ancient, and like it was really impossible to find because it's amidst all these glaciers, and it's really representative in the lyrics. You got Abbott's voice, which is very skeletal, literally, in that regard, like that of a corpse. It sounds like a zombie rising from the dead. Actually, I compared it to Skeletor when thinking over this album. And you've got these really glacial sort of intermittent instrumental passages full of either bass or synths. I really couldn't tell. Sorry, guys. And like these sort of like booming drum riffs, a little resemblant actually of Danny Carey's sort of drum passages, especially Anima and Lateralis, and even later on, where it's just kind of toms and it's sort of just passing along, and it's really tribal sounding. And this album, as well as that, as much as other albums have connected to sort of nature and pagan gods, this album feels truly primal, despite having really good production, and I really admire it for that. Anyway, I've been talking for a really long time, so I'm going to get into the track list. So we start off with Withstand the Fall of Time. So it starts off with this really fuzzy guitar intro, and it's tremolo, of course, but, you know, rather than evil or satanic, it sounds cold and dark and almost foreboding, which I thought was a really nice way to pack in the atmosphere without as much lo-fi quality. It really starts the album off well with showing you how this is going to be portrayed. This isn't like old Immortal's Pure Holocaust, where it's just black. This is ice. Accompanied with these booming drums, it's really a treat for the ears. The amount of energy packed into this track is ridiculous. Abbott's riffing is monstrously huge. It almost feels overwhelming at a couple points. And on top of that, it's really fast too. He could be doing tremolo and then he'll syncopate it with something even faster, and he'll repeat that. That's not even like a one-time thing. It just shows he'll just do it over and over again. Not to pull away from the impact, it hits like a brick every time. The first time I actually listened to this album, I actually kind of accepted it as power metal in a way, and I'm aware the voice and a lot of the tremolo and a lot of the blast beats in the drumming begs to differ, but with the sheer motivating energy behind it, it was reminiscent of power metal. And I gotta say, if speed is your thing in metal, this album is for you. And I'm gonna get into this later about how accessible this album is for anyone trying to get into black metal, Immortal, or anything of the sort. Speed is definitely a key factor in that regard. There's a lot of different drum usage on this track. It's not just double kick, snare, and crashing on the cymbal for a blast beat. I even hear a gong at some point, and it's not like the ambient usage that Euronymous used on Burzum Self-Titled, but it's actually the usage of a gong. Also, this key riff that hit right after the lyrics part of the verse hit every single black metal itch I've ever had. Next, we have the track Solar Fall. So this starts a trend on the album that is effective the entire time. It's got this really heavy, galloping thrash rhythm, which honestly accompanies the black metal styling a lot better than I would have thought. It's really chaotic, and honestly, it fits the warlike tone perfectly. This track, over all others, probably has the most thrash influence on it, and it doesn't pull away from the track at all. It really just feels like Immortal coming into their own style that's kind of separate from other black metal bands. And you get all this energy that's just surging forward, and then it pulls back for a sec, almost like a reprieve from the battle that was occurring. It's got this more laid back sort of plucky portion that's got these booming drums in the background that's incredibly ominous, until the whole thing is pierced by a massive, and I truly mean massive, just noise crammed riff from Abbott. It just shreds, and it's really, really awesome, which it builds into this marching rhythm, almost like after the first battle, a lot of the people had to lose the horses because just too many casualties were sustained. Bad metaphor, I know, but it does kind of build to the progressive structure of a lot of these tracks, that it just switches rhythms over and over again, and now it's this marching rhythm as it just keeps moving forward, and it really does keep moving forward. Everything here is as tight and energetic as possible. Honestly, I was so tired the first time I was re-listening to this album, but that part of the song actually reinvigorated me. It was like a slow-mo moment where the hero just gets back up and comes back for round two. It's truly incredible what some of this album does. And there were moments where, honestly, I could not pay attention anymore, and I just had to pull back and jam because it just hit so hard. And now we got the grammatically incorrect but amazingly hooky Tragedies Blows at Horizon. I don't know why it's two plurals, but it works kind of incredibly. It's really impactful. It's the closest thing to a black metal hook you're gonna get on any album. Again, got a really nice galloping rhythm before Abbott comes in, and I would describe this as he murders his guitar. He absolutely destroys the thing with his shredding. And what followed soon after was easily some of the most creative drumming in black metal or any song that I have ever heard. And unlike Transylvanian Hunger, it's not just like straight blast beats, or Wolves in the Throne Room either. This is like blast beats alternating with double kicks, then it alternates to some other rhythm, and then another rhythm on top of that, and it just goes back and forth, and it's unrelenting. This is like pounding away at you. There's another more laid back portion on the song that's meant to build a lot of tension, and it works again completely perfectly. It's almost a little gothic in its feeling. And this is right before Abbott lets loose with this tsunami of just guitar, and it will run you over. It is so monstrously huge, and I really can't say that enough. These riffs are some of the biggest sounding riffs I've ever heard. Honestly, it's so massive sounding, you feel like it's your theme music as you listen. And one thing I found very smart, someone out there might find this as a minor criticism, where it went back into the whole song after that monstrous riff. That monstrous riff honestly could have let it out, but it kind of repeats in a way. It's almost like the whole song refrains. And a lot of the song, I think, of what it was trying to say was how battle was endless, as the hook was saying that the battle just continues. The battle rages on. And it's almost like, yeah, no matter how many second wins you have, it is not enough. You're playing on endless mode, you're gonna die. This song especially, I found every single instrument was propelling forward at Mach speed. Nothing could slow this track down. This is probably my favorite track on the album, and it didn't have a single nick in it, and just every second was just pounding away and just unstoppable. The next track starts off B-side with Where Dark and Light Don't Differ, Tone Shift. So Abbott has these really layered vocals here that are a little more resemblant of like a death growl rather than actual black metal vocals, but the way they're portrayed is actually very nice. I found them to be almost resemblant of like another character. It really felt like they were trying to portray like an enemy of some sort. Also, these riffs are, again, huge. Almost like a landscape, which I'm sure was trying to be portrayed here. They're actually big enough to get lost in, and I got lost in them every time. So after that track, we take a bit of a step back from the current more warlike tracks to the title track here. So the way the song starts off has this synth buzz that is sort of rumbling underneath, which is really a good way to start off the song. It doesn't just go straight into it. It's almost like to show you that this is a different thing entirely. It's also got these little guitar licks going off that just build and build, almost signifying something coming. It is incredibly ominous and foreboding, and it's got these samples of the wind blowing in the background, which is definitely not unheard of for black metal, but it works very well here, and it just makes it all the more better. Of course, you get these monolithic-sized riffs that kick in, and in a way, it shows you that the battles were not over. There were a lot of battles before, but as previous tracks have said, they're unending. The lyrics, even though they're a little hard to decipher, are about nature and sort of exploration, and I found them very inspiring as someone who's really into the fantasy idea. Actually, listening to this one of the times, I got instantly inspired to write more Dungeons and Dragons content for one of my own campaigns. Honestly, like, it was late at night one of the times I was listening, and I was just sitting down and I was like, man, I really want to just go outside. To round off the track list, we've got Years of Silent Sorrow. It starts with this blisteringly fast speed, and it's almost like it's making a statement. This album is not going to let you out of Blastshirk. It will kill you before you have the chance. There's a really, really cool distorted, more black metal type riff that happens in the background on this one, and it really helps with the atmosphere. This is easily the most sludgy and doom-laden track in the whole track list here, and it really shows that everything's kind of falling apart. One of the things about these lyrics that I liked a lot is that it sort of shows a protagonist no longer fighting in some army or in some war, but now at this point it's just to get home. And it's kind of resemblant of that one Windeer I covered on the black metal chart listing, where it's just all talking about this whole roundabout adventure, and it's almost like a soldier who has been in war, but after fighting constantly and the war is over, now the battle is just to go home. It's no longer to win. I was honestly shocked how much this track was really emotionally evocative. It really brought inspiration to me that I hadn't felt in quite a while. And it reached a blend that was actually kind of unheard of. So, incredible playing, incredible lyrics, incredible structures, shockingly good atmosphere despite the decent production values. If you want a black metal album that is not overly satanic or pagan or overly dark and crushing, if you want something that's more akin to other metal to almost introduce you to black metal, this is your pick. Immortal's at the Heart of Winter, more like Immortalized in My Soul as a sick album. This thing is epic. Almost as good as Dilate, even. So guys, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a comment. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, I'd appreciate a comment down below, or go ahead and check out my social medias in the description box. And that's about it. I hope you guys out there are doing well. I hope to see you guys next time. Have a good day. Bye.